Up against the demons, Rose's team is holding their own, and with their impressive, they even have the upper hand over them. In the meantime, Rose postulates that Nero Demon's sword must be imbued with some curse and that she cannot afford being struck by it. With that said, she launches Nero back to his men with a single punch and heals her minor wounds. She then provokes Nero to stand up, urging that her punch is not enough to take him down. Nero, on the other hand, endorses that he wasn't expecting this mission to be troublesome as he commends Rose's squad. He further comments that they are the toughest opponents they have faced so far. They know that humans no longer have heroes and used to believe that there aren't any humans with overwhelming abilities, but his encounter with Rose proves otherwise. He further comments that they have become the greatest obstacle in their way, which makes Rose question him, but Nero keeps on blabbing about how their king will rise soon and that he is an absolute being who has promised them victory. With this, Nero unleashes his full strength, and his men start acting strange. They won't budge, with swords piercing their gut, and sacrifice themselves to take down their opponents as well. Rose attempts to stop them, but Nero gets in her way and the demons manage to kill Neruka. The battle proceeds as the demons continue sacrificing themselves, which infuriates Rose, and she loses her composure. Nero seizes this opportunity to take out Rose's eye. She attempts to heal it but fails as Nero reveals that his crimson sword dispels all magic. With all of this going on, her men keep calling for her, but with Nero blocking her way, Rose cannot do anything. She blindly approaches Nero once again, only to get her ankle slashed by Nero's sword. Realizing that she can no longer fight, Nero decides to end her and approaches her to deal the finishing blow. Just when he swings his sword, Al appears out of nowhere and takes the strike instead of Rose. This further infuriates Rose as she looks around to witness all her subordinates dead. She blames all of this on herself as she questions her actions, wondering why Al didn't escape and chose to stay behind. In the end, she concludes that she was weak. Nero, on the other hand, deems Rose at her most vulnerable and decides to end her. He comments on how he will remember the deaths of their subordinates. Hearing this, Rose's blood starts boiling as she grabs his sword and punches him right in the face. She keeps thrashing him around like a mannequin, stating that he does not know shit about her men as she smashes Nero into a tree with his sword. At that moment, a demon girl appears from nowhere as Nero instructs her to stay hidden. Seeing this, Rose cannot comprehend how a demon who sacrificed his own is being saved by someone the same way Al saved her. The demon girl, on the other hand, saves Nero and takes off. Rose wanted to stop them, but noticing that the girl's face resembles Al, she shattered to the ground. Just then, she hears Al, who is still alive, and rushes towards her. She reassures her that she will heal her, with Al commenting that it is impossible. Knowing that she won't survive, Al expresses her gratitude towards Rose for serving as their captain and urges her to stay the same. With this, Al also succumbs to death as Rose keeps shouting all alone in the forest. Following all this, Rose reports everything to King Lloyd and tells him that the King of Demons might awaken and invade Lloyd Kingdom. After ending her report, Rose requests King Lloyd to relieve her of all her duties as a battalion commander and as a knight as well, stating that she does not deserve to be a knight. Rose then leaves the hall without saying anything. On her way back, she comes across some people who recognize her as Captain Rose and introduce themselves as Josh's parents. Hearing this, Rose apologizes for Josh's death, urging that it was her fault. Josh's parents, on the other hand, express their gratitude towards Rose for bringing him back to them. According to them, Rose is the reason their worthless son could do something, and his face brightened up when he joined her squad. With this, Rose heads back to her base where she settles down all alone. After some time, Siegless visits Rose and questions if King Lloyd had also visited her. He was quite shocked by this as Rose also comments that she was surprised by his visit all the way here as Siegless states that King Lloyd is worried about her. He then questions if Lloyd tried to convince her, to which she replies negatively, further stating that he was here for the same reason he is. Looking towards the sky, Rose comments on how dying would not be a bad option. Upon hearing this, Siegless grabs her by her collar as Rose reassures him that she will not do anything like this. After this, Siegless questions her regarding the progress of her healing and why she is not trying to heal her eye. Rose ignores his question, but deep down she believes that this injury is a proof of her sin and to make sure that she does not forget her subordinate's death. Even though Rose does not want to die, she cannot comprehend the purpose of her life. She wonders if she wants to kill Nero or get rid of all demon from this world, but she soon realizes that she needs to calm herself before making any decision. As she settles at the table, she reminisces about the time her comrades were still alive. This makes her question if she was always this weak and what would Owl and the others say if they saw her now. At that point, she daydreams about the owl telling her that she would probably laugh at her. She further tells Rose that nothing in this life remains permanent and they must accept this fact to move forward. She further reminds her that the fact she served as their captain won't change as well. She also reminds her of what she said before dying as the other members also appear there, cheering Rose up. Hearing all this, Rose starts crying as tears roll down her cheeks and decides that she won't stand still any longer. With this, Rose decides that she will formulate an organization that will save people, and for that purpose, she needs at least 5 men, 2 healers, and someone who can stand beside her on the battlefield. Fast forward to the present, Rose tells Yuzuto that she is glad to have found him, which shocks him. She also reminds him of how valuable he is, stating that she cannot replace him with some random healer. She further tells him that he is someone with all the qualities she's been searching for and that he has managed to achieve things that only Rose herself has achieved. With all of this going on, the demons have also managed to complete the bridge. They are confident that they'll succeed this time, as the Dark Knight is also excited about all this. He questions the commander if he can head to the front line as soon as the battle begins, to which she replies positively. Despite his confident demeanor, the commander warns him about the existence of kidnappers. Yuzuto and the others have finally reached their camping site. As Yuzuto wakes up the following morning, he heads outside and comes across Inakami, which makes him question her presence there. She tells him that she is up for some morning walk, further questioning him regarding her outfit. Yuzuto doesn't comprehend what exactly she wants him to say, as she keeps blabbering about how her armor boosts her lightning magic and even enhances her movements. This makes Yuzuto realize that Inakami is one of those gorilla girls who prefer armor over cute stuff. Inakami, however, shuns this comment, stating that she used to cultivate cactuses back home, which further strengthens Yuzuto's belief. Inakami then proposes Yuzuto to become her source of comfort, as Yuzuto fails to comprehend whatever she is spouting. Hearing this, Inakami deems Yuzuto a tsundere as she attempts to seduce him. At that point, Kazuki appears out of nowhere, grabbing Inakami from behind and takes her away. After all this, it is finally time for the war. The humans have schemed to strike the Demon Lord's army with a barrage of magic as soon as they arrive. After this, Inakami and Kazuki will shatter their defenses alongside other knights and carve the way to their general. As they are waiting for the demon army, Inakami encourages Kazuki to not push himself too much. Kazuki immediately counters her encouragement with a question regarding her relationship with Yuzuto, prompting her to spill the tea. Inakami deems him quite perceptive when it comes to such circumstances, as she tells him that Yuzuto is someone who accepted her for who she really is. Just then, they sense that the Demon Lord's army has arrived as the knights prepare themselves to unleash havoc upon them. As soon as they launch their magic, they realize that it was a diversion, as the real army is approaching from another side. With all of this going on, Rose instructs Tong and the others to head out to the front lines and bring anyone who is injured. She further instructs Orga and Aruru to remain stationed there, with Eriku acting as their guard. She, herself, and Yuzuto will head out to the front lines in some time. Just then, Tong brings 2 injured soldiers to the tent, which shocks Yuzuto and Aruru. They immediately proceed to heal the soldiers. The knight Yuzuto is healing informs him about a snake on the battlefield, contemplating him to think if it's the same one he had encountered. In the meantime, the Black Knight is unimpressed by humans, as suddenly, a knight pierces its chest from behind, thinking that he had hit the jackpot. However, much to his surprise, the attack didn't even tickle the Black Knight, as the wound immediately heals and instead damages the knight. Even though he is impressed by his tenacious nature, the Black Knight decides to get rid of him. Just then, a mysterious balloon appears out of nowhere and diverts its attention. Just as he looks back, the knight is already gone, as a weird guy carries him away. This shocks the knight as he remembers the commander's warning about the kidnappers. At that moment, he notices Inumaki's lightning magic, which piques his interest, and he heads towards it. In the meantime, Rose announces that it's about time that they head to the front lines, as she leaves the healing tent in Aruru and Orga's care. On their way, Rose informs Yuzuto regarding the Black Knight. Hearing this, Yuzuto immediately remembers the vision that mysterious girl showed and slows down a bit. Rose also stops and questions Yuzuto if he can kill anyone on the battlefield, to which he replies negatively. Rose deems him an idiot to say this in the face of death. Despite his response, she teaches him a secret technique, and after hearing this, Yuzuto gets a bit relieved. With this, both of them head in opposite directions, saving multiple people on the way. In the meantime, Kazuki and Inokami are carving their way to the enemy general, getting rid of everyone on their way. Kazuki informs Inokami about a huge snake up ahead, and as they are about to move, the Black Knight appears in front of them. Both of them immediately realize that this demon is far superior compared to the one they have fought before. Despite Inokami's warning, some soldiers blindly charge ahead and pierce the knight, but much to their surprise, their attacks have no effect on him. Instead, their attacks get reflected back to them, which shocks all of them. Without thinking, Kazuki casts a projectile towards the Black Knight, but Inokami stops him and pushes him away. The attack still brushes off the demon's shoulder as Kazuki questions Inokami regarding her actions. At that point, Kazuki's attack gets reflected back to him as blood oozes from his shoulder. Seeing this, Inokami realizes that his real magic is reflection and gets praised by the Black Knight. In the meantime, Yuzito is also heading towards them as he suddenly feels throbbing headache. Seizing this opportunity, a demon ambushes him, but he gets saved by a knight he had saved before. Yuzito then inquires the knight regarding Kazuki and Inokami's whereabouts, and hurries towards them. With all of this going on, Inokami and Kazuki are up against the Black Knight, but all their attacks get reflected back. At that point, Inokami notices that the attack on his back wasn't reflected and informs Kazuki about it. Without wasting any time, they ambush the Black Knight once again, and Inokami finally manages to pierce him from behind. She had deduced that the Black Knight cannot reflect attacks he cannot perceive, as Kazuki also ambushes him from front. However, all of them go down the drain as Inokami's attack gets reflected back and the Black Knight penetrates Kazuki's chest. He further reveals that he was playing around with them, and his perception has nothing to do with his ability. With this, Inokami also falls to the ground. Back in the real world, Inokami was always overwhelmed by the respect and expectations people had from her. However, when she got reincarnated into another world alongside Yuzito and Kazuki, she was really happy. She thought that she could finally be true to herself, and the person that accepted her wholeheartedly was Yuzito. Fast forward to the present, just as Inokami collapses to the ground, the demons start celebrating their victory as if they have already won the war, and the battlefield echoes with praise for the Black Knight. The Black Knight then decides to get rid of Inokami and raises his sword. At that moment, Yuzito appears out of nowhere and smacks the living shit out of him. He hurriedly takes both of them to a safe place and heals them. As he is healing them, the Black Knight regains consciousness and triggers an uproar in anguish. It turns out the Black Knight is a woman, and Yuzito's attack has actually managed to damage her. With no other option left, Yuzito picks up Kazuki and Inokami, and takes to his heels. The demons, however, follow them, but Inokami manages to disperse them using her magic. Just as Yuzito thinks that they have gotten far enough, the Black Knight appears out of nowhere and hurls her sword towards them. Inokami then explains the circumstances and reveals everything related to the Black Knight to him. She also tells him that his attacks are damaging the Black Knight and that he might be the key to their victory. Even though Yuzito does not want to fight, he has no other option. He coats his entire body as healing magic and instructs Inokami to stay behind. With this, the real battle begins as Yuzito approaches the Black Knight at full force. Brimming with wrath, the Black Knight launches a fury of attacks towards Yuzito, but much to her surprise, all her attacks got cancelled for some reason. Yuzito, on the other hand, keeps punching the living shit out of her since he believes in gender equality. In the meantime, Kazuki also wakes up and Inokami explains everything to him. For a moment, the Black Knight gets the upper hand and manages to pierce Yuzito's hand, but unfortunately, the attack did not even tickle Yuzito. Kazuki and Inokami cannot comprehend the reason behind Black Knight's ineffectiveness against Yuzito. Kazuki also questions the reason Yuzito has cloaked himself in healing magic, since he is not healing himself or anything. From all this, Inokami postulates that the Black Knight's weakness might be healing magic. In the meantime, Yuzito cloaks his entire hand in healing magic and thrashes the Black Knight a mile away. Inokami further deduces that Yuzito is healing the Black Knight's injuries as he punches her, so there are no wounds, but his attacks still hurt like hell. The Black Knight also cannot comprehend what's happening as she unleashes her full potential and vows to kill Yuzito. As both of them approach each other, their attacks clash, but Yuzito's punch significantly overpowers her and renders her unconscious. The blast from their clash was so massive that even Rose could perceive it from the other side of the battlefield. Now that the Black Knight is unconscious, Yuzito heals the injured knights and gets appreciated for his efforts. Inokami and Kazuki also express their gratitude, asserting that if he hadn't defeated the Black Knight, there would have been far more casualties. Inakami then questions him regarding his finishing move, the healing punch, as Yuzuto gets all embarrassed and tells her that it is just a normal punch cloaked in healing magic. He further tells her that Rose was the one who taught him this move, since he can knock down his opponents with this without leaving any significant injuries. At that moment, a knight reports to Inakami and Kazuki that the white snake is wreaking havoc on the front lines, and they need their assistance. In the meantime, Rose also appears at the spot and grabs Yuzuto from his collar, questioning him regarding everything that happened here. Yuzuto reports everything to Rose as she comments that she wasn't expecting that he'd be the one to put an end to everything. She then instructs him to head back to the camp since the battle is already in their pocket. Yuzuto bids farewell to Kazuki and Inakami, and heads back to the camp. In the meantime, the report reaches the enemy headquarters regarding Black Knight's ultimate fall. The general cannot comprehend that their best soldier got captured and questions if the heroes defeated her. The demon reports that someone from the rescue squad was the one behind all this, which infuriates her. With no other option left, she instructs Hyriluk to call Belyinok back since they are retreating. They have realized that they can't fight any longer since they don't even have any healers, and the commander alone cannot defend the base alongside fighting on the front lines. Just then, Hyriluk notices that the heroes are already up against Belyinok, and following a long battle, they finally defeat the White Snake. With this, the humans have won this war. Rose informs Yuzuto regarding all this, and after this, they proceed to heal the injured knights. She also asserts that they were able to win this battle owing to Yuzuto's heroics, but he denies this, stating that they would have been saved anyways. Rose, however, persists that Yuzuto was the one who saved them, and without him, the battle wouldn't have ended this quickly and there was a chance that they might have lost. She then expresses her gratitude towards Yuzuto as tears begin rolling down his cheeks. He tells Rose that he's glad that he met her, which makes Rose insanely happy as this reminds her of Owl and the others. With this, Yuzuto loses consciousness as Rose grabs him, urging that he rests. After a while, Yuzuto recounts to Blurn all the details concerning the war and their summons to the castle. King Lloyd even honored him with an award, and even though he got nervous, he was insanely happy because in his previous world, he never did anything worth getting a reward. At that moment, Gommel appears at the spot and informs Yuzuto that King Lloyd has summoned him. He also warns him to be careful while passing through town, which confuses Yuzuto. On his way to the castle, Yuzuto gets surrounded by hordes of people who are expressing their gratitude for saving their kingdom. Upon reaching the castle, he comes across Eriku, who also appreciates his heroics, and after this, Yuzuto heads towards King Lloyd. There, Siegless informs him that they want to help them interrogate the Black Knight he captured, which makes Yuzuto question if she is resisting. Siegless tells him that she has been weirdly cooperative in their interrogation, but she still hasn't divulged any important information like the magic their commanders possess and stuff like that. They further tell him that she wants them to fulfill her demands and she actually wants to meet Yuzuto. On their way to the Black Knight, Inakami also accompanies them and reassures Yuzuto that she'll protect him even though she got her ass beat last time around. Yuzuto then questions Siegless regarding the reason he was able to defeat her. Siegless briefs him that the Black Knight possesses dark magic and ice cancelled out by healing magic for some reason. Yuzuto immediately realizes that his fist cloak with healing magic had no effect on her and questions Siegless if anyone had treated her, to which he replies negatively. Hearing this, he rushes towards the Black Knight and probes her if she is injured. Yuzuto knows that the Black Knight took all his punches head-on, and his punches can even shatter boulders. Inakami, on the other hand, deduces that the Black Knight is actually a masochist as Yuzuto urges her to shut up. Meanwhile, Inakami deduces that the Black Knight might be a masochist, prompting Yuzuto to urge her to remain silent. Yuzuto then asks Siegless to let him in, who hesitates a bit but submits to his will. Yuzuto then approaches the Black Knight and forcefully heals her, asserting that her death will leave a bad taste in his mouth. The demon, on the other hand, comments on how warm it feels and immediately removes her armor. She also asks Yuzuto to keep healing her since no one had treated her like this before, as tears roll down her cheeks. Following all this, Yuzuto is back to training with Rose, who reminds him that the Demon Lord's army will strike again, and they need to prepare for that. Yuzuto also realizes that he needs to power up his healing magic since he cannot heal diseases or anything like that. Rose, however, has other plans as she wants Yuzuto to be able to dodge attacks. She tells him that even healing magic cannot heal wounds procured by curses, and for that purpose, he needs to learn dodging as well. Yuzuto, on the other hand, still cannot comprehend what she is saying as Rose decides to punch him with all her might. She then launches Yuzuto into the air, and just as he lands, she punches the living shit out of him, rendering him unconscious. as Yuzito regains consciousness, he wonders if all of this was just a measly dream and Rose would never punch her as part of their training. However, much to his surprise, all of that was reality and Rose is prepared to have a go at it again. After some time, Yuzito heads to the castle to meet Black Knight and tells her everything regarding his hellish training and how Rose is way too cruel. The demon, on the other hand, cannot fathom why Yuzito is telling her all this and what is he doing there in the first place. In response to this, Yuzito tells her that he just wanted to check on her and questions her regarding her future endeavors. Hearing all this, the girl gets flattered and urges Yuzito to get lost. On his way back, Yuzito comes across Celia and Kazuki. Celia tells him that Kazuki has been improving his magic skills ever since he returned from war and she's keeping an eye on him. Yuzito immediately realizes that something fishy is cooking between them and wonders if training is supposed to be this chill. Following a long conversation with Kazuki, Yuzito heads back. In the meantime, Rose visits the Black Knight and offers her two choices. She can either spend the rest of her life rotting in this prison, or she can join the rescue corps under Rose. The demon hesitates, but Rose basically forces her into joining the corps. She also seals her magic with a magical tool and renders her unconscious with a flick to her forehead. With all of this going on, as Yuzito is running alongside Blurren, Rose appears at the spot and scolds him for training too much. Seeing that Rose is carrying the Black Knight, Yuzito gets shocked and questions the reason behind this. Rose tells him that she is supposed to discipline her as new recruit of the rescue squad. At that point, the Black Knight also wakes up and recognizes Yuzito, who offers her condolences. Later that night, Yuzito reports to Rose that she calmed down after taking a bath and is currently sleeping in her room. Rose then informs Yuzito regarding a meeting she had with King Lloyd. She tells him that King Lloyd wants to send envoys to other countries to seek aid from them and Yuzito is also one of these envoys alongside Kazuki and Inakami. This shocks Yuzito as Rose further tells him that King Lloyd trusts him and believes that he'll be able to accomplish this mission. The following day, as Yuzito is hanging out in the market, he comes across Inakami and as they are conversing, he notices the mysterious girl who showed him the vision and rushes towards her. Yuzito immediately grabs her, prompting her to explain everything. The girl, on the other hand, tells him that she's been waiting for him, further asserting that it's time that he pays back and save her mother. Yuzito doesn't comprehend what she is saying and questions her regarding this. The girl introduces herself as Amako and suggests that they find a quiet place to talk about. Inakami, on the other hand, is weirdly excited about all this. In the meantime, the Black Knight is training alongside other members of the rescue squad. She even gets smacked by Rose for slacking off. In the meantime, Yuzito takes Amako to their base since all his comrades are out training. Yuzito then questions her the reason behind showing him the mysterious vision as Amako asserts that if she hadn't showed him the vision, this kingdom would have been destroyed. Hearing this, Yuzito immediately realizes that Amako can see the future, which she also ascertains. She further tells him that she had been looking for a healer after she left the Beastland and now that she had found Yuzito, she couldn't afford losing him. The reason Amako traveled so far is to save her mother since beasts cannot use healing magic. This makes Yuzito question why she chose Yuzito instead of Orga and Aruru, as Amako clarifies that both of them cannot fight and could probably die before reaching the Beastlands. After all this, Amako urges Yuzito to travel to the Beastlands and save her mother. Inakami, however, asserts that Yuzito is way too important for this kingdom and it won't be easy for him to leave like that. Yuzito, on the other hand, gives it some thought and comes up with a solution. He reckons that they can travel to the Beastlands during their mission as escorts. With this, he decides to talk it out with Captain Rose first. Yuzito explains everything to Rose, who refuses to believe that Amako is a precognitive princess since such beastmen are extremely important and might even spark a conflict. Despite all this, Rose asserts that Yuzito's wish to travel to the Beastlands might be granted because of this peculiar fact and instructs him to wait. After this, Yuzito tells Amako everything as she appreciates her gratitude and leaves. Later that night, Yuzito encourages the Black Knight, who is facing some difficulty in adjusting to this new environment. He even gifts her a diary and advises her to journal her training in it. The following day, her training proceeds as usual alongside other members and sometimes Yuzito as well. One day, she notices some strange noises coming from the forest and decides to sneak a peek. Much to her surprise, it was Yuzito's training session with Rose. She gets shocked to see Yuzito getting smacked around like it is nothing and deems both of them inhuman. You cannot blame her as well. The training, on the other hand, seems to proceed smoothly as Yuzito attempts to dodge Rose's attacks and he manages to dodge one, which makes her insanely overjoyed. Even Rose appreciates her, and with this, his special training regime is over. Later on, as Yuzito and the demon are resting under a tree, Yuzito seeks her name even though it's a bit late. The girl hesitatingly introduces herself as Felm, but Yuzito completely ignores her and diverts his attention towards Blurren. This infuriates her and she ends up getting more exhausted than usual, and even skips dinner. Felm wakes up at night to scavenge something to eat and accidentally comes across Yuzito and Rose, who are having a secret conversation regarding Yuzito's mission. The following morning, Felm sneaks out from the base without anyone knowing. During the day, Yuzito takes Amako to the castle where they meet King Lloyd. For the first time, King Lloyd gets up from his throne and expresses his gratitude towards Amako for saving their kingdom. He then briefs Yuzito regarding his mission and had customized it so that they end up at the Beastlands in the end, which makes them insanely happy. After this, Welsi lets them in on further details, including the fact that he'll be visiting 4 countries including Lukist, Samariarl, Myalark, and Beastlands. She further tells him that Kazuki and Inakami will accompany him to Lukabist. Yuzito also decides to go with Eriku as their knight. In the meantime, Felm gets caught by Rose, who deduces that she wasn't attempting to escape and reveal their plan to the demon army. Rose questions if she was worried about Yuzito, but Felm immediately dodges this question. Later on, Yuzito bids Felm farewell and finally addresses her by her real name, which embarrasses her. Yuzito also meets Rose, who gives him some valuable advice regarding this journey. She tells him that healing magic is usually looked down upon, and if he encounters someone like that, make sure to beat the shit out of him. She further tells him that she's expecting great things from him, which makes Yuzito insanely happy as he accepts Rose as his mentor, whom he truly respects. Following this, Yuzito and the others bid farewell to their loved ones and leave for a journey that might change them forever. In the meantime, Rose takes Felm to a spot from where she can witness Yuzito and the others leaving the kingdom.